So today I'm going to be doing a book review for the books I have read in the year of 2024 all the way up to roughly the end of 2024. So the first book I'm going to talk about is this one. A Little History of Philosophy by Nigel Warburton. I read this quite a while ago. For what it is and for what it intends to me, it's brilliant. It words things in a very simplified way. If you are interested in philosophy and know nothing about it, then that is a great place to start. It goes through a lot of the central and most influential philosophers throughout history. It starts from as early as Socrates and goes all the way to modern day philosophers such as people like Alan Turing, and Peter Singer is the most recent and last chapter. The chapters follow a kind of story based. They have a nice narrative in the way that each chapter focuses on one philosopher or two that kind of work together, and it talks in a factual way, but it also sometimes talks in a story way where it follows a narrative of the actual philosopher's life and talks about it from their perspective or from someone's perspective that was following them. I think this is a great way to narrate it and kind of to make you feel like you're there, but to also really understand their philosophy and the way they got to those conclusions and how that affected the world. So yeah, my summary of that is that it is really good as a simplification to introduce you to philosophy in the most understandable way. I've learned a lot from the book. You learn about all of them, all of the main ones: skepticism, humanism, everything, going all the way back to 2000 plus BCE. The only thing that I would say makes it lack of a higher one is that it only includes Western philosophy. It doesn't really go into Eastern philosophy. It could have definitely 100% included even ancient Eastern philosophers who were very, very influential in the foundation of thought, like Confucius, and even Buddha, who was a religious figure, but still arguably was a philosopher. So it could have been higher, could have been even 4.5, but I would rate it a 3.8 out of 5. But it could have been higher. It could have been even a 4.5 if it had included Eastern religions. But the fact that it's called A Little History of Philosophy, you would assume otherwise. You would assume it encompasses everything, but no, it encompasses specifically Western. Next one. The second book I read, classic, Animal Farm. Now, Animal Farm from George Orwell, most famous for this book and 1984. His last two novels were a great success. It's a very absurd narrative because it follows the lives of farm animals who somehow become self-aware and create their own politics and run their own society within this farm. They drive out the farmer and they start building a windmill halfway through, and then that all goes wrong, and its main, from what I know, its main function is to show how communism can slowly turn dangerous if the wrong people are in charge. One of the pigs takes over and the other pig is driven out. I'm pretty sure, I don't know too much, but I'm pretty sure that is representative of how Lenin was driven out. Overall, I would rate Animal Farm a 4.5 out of 5. I think this is a brilliant book to teach in primary schools and high schools to children and teenagers because it simplifies these kinds of politics in a very comedic and ironic way. The way that animals are characterized as politicians is quite funny, and also the ending is very, very meaningful and thought-provoking. the last line specifically, if you all know what it is, really can be applied to everyday politics, not just communism, but late stage capitalism too. That when the wrong people become in charge, it is often too late before a revolution has to occur. So a 4.5 out of 5. This third book was maybe just the favourite for me of the year. 2001 A Space Odyssey follows the adventures of 3 individuals. It skips time throughout. The first few chapters follow a Homo sapien, or maybe actually more underdeveloped and under-evolved monkey, who the narrator names Moonwatcher, and it kind of shows this creature's hope and curiosity to explore the world and explore beyond the world, the moon. The second one, from what I remember, it brings this kind of presenter, this TV host, to the moon and follows this man who works for the kind of space program and how he knows about and how he works within this system. Space travel has evolved quite a lot by this point. The book was written in, I think, the 50s or 60s. And of course, like all humans do, the author Arthur Clarke predicted that moon travel would be kind of like not as common as riding a taxi, but pretty commonplace. People just hang out there, astronauts. There's a whole space station there. There's a merchandise shop. It's fairly developed, and by that point people are already thinking of going on a journey to Jupiter and Saturn. So I'm kind of summarizing the book here. I should be reviewing it, but to give you a picture of it, and that's what it follows. It's an exploration of these 3 stories. The last one is an actual astronaut who does travel on a space mission with another guy and some other cryogenically frozen astronauts to go to Saturn and Jupiter and explore from afar their surfaces and the nature of those planets. The reason I think this is my favourite is because it describes space, and it describes the loneliness of space excellently and poetically. At times it is a bit too descriptive, just like the film infamous for acid trippers who watch the very slowly hovering spaceships go across the screen, often with classical music. It's slow at times, but it's beautifully described. And the ending wraps it up really well. It is quite psychedelic in a way. The ending is very underexplained, and maybe that's the beauty of it. It has this weird time paradox, and I think the book itself aims to and successfully makes us feel small in comparison to the universe and extraterrestrial life itself. It makes us realize that there are far more advanced species out there that we don't even understand, and we won't ever understand. And we won't know that those species exist, of course not. The book itself captures the wonder of space, and even if we were more developed than we are now, there would still be hundreds and thousands, if not millions of years of advancement we need to go to even explore out of our system. I think it's a brilliant book, and I would give it the only downsides it has is, like any book of that era, it does not pass the Bechdel test, which essentially asks the question of whether any female characters have a conversation with each other that doesn't involve a man, or the female characters have their own arc that are not affected by or are solely dependent on a man. There are no women in this book. That is the main issue, and it would be higher, but I would give it a 4.5. I would give it a 4.5, maybe a 4.6. if it did pass the test, it would maybe, in my opinion, be a 4.8. Priestley's Inspector Calls. This one is a favourite among theatre enthusiasts and just literature enthusiasts in general. I know this was taught a lot in school. I wasn't taught it, but I read it later on and I loved it. A lot of people say that you shouldn't find out any spoilers because the ending is quite a twist, and different parts throughout are quite a twist. Keep dropping bombs here and here and here and here throughout the book, and you're like, oh my gosh. More drama, more secrets, more corruption. So, I'm not going to try and summarize the plot again because that takes a while. This book explores morality and how reputation and having money can make someone more corrupt, someone less able to have empathy, and someone more able to hide the truth. Each of the family members have their own weaknesses in some way, and the detective reveals this bizarre character that just turns up, and for some reason we find out that he is not a detective. He is in fact likely a journalist that is an enemy of the family, and has unfortunately found out the truth by the end. So the family will be in some trouble by after the end of the book. It has a very poetic and very dramatic irony moment at the end. The last call they get seems unreal, honestly, and written like it would ever be that crazy and unlucky to happen. It does. But overall, I think the thing they are presenting was brilliantly done. People with power and reputation can easily fall down the trap of having no empathy for someone in a world that goes against them. The character of Daisy Renton, I think she has another name, she changes her name at some point. She is the victim of this society that is built on money and power. She is the one who is subjected to not just society's cruelty, but this family specifically has very unluckily all done bad things to her just by coincidence. The book is very ironic. It's unrealistically unfair on this girl, but in some ways it's really, really meaningful. The detective has a speech at the end, actually, near the end. And even though he's lying and this girl didn't die, you find out the truth. I'm sure you've all read it. I won't spoil. He is right. The family is immoral and they've become corrupt. I would give this book a 4.4 out of 5. The way it deals with dramatic irony is brilliant, and its themes of corruption amongst the middle class and the people they unwillingly victimize is very effective. Brilliant change in era. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is bloomin' brilliant. It explores. I watched the interview that she did on the Jimmy Fallon show, and Gabrielle Zevin doesn't particularly have a summary for this book. She just tells us its themes. It's about art, it's about life, it's about friendships, love, and gaming. And there's more to it too. And I would say that's all true. If you had to give it one kind of genre, it would probably be a coming-of-age novel. Even though most of the time they are adults, they start off as young adults and end up maybe in their 30s or 40s by the end. It's, for me, the first very contemporary era book It was written in, I think, 2020. So the first book that is that recent, and it's very refreshing. I've had a fixation on classics recently, and probably will for another few years. And I would say contemporary era novels give a nice vibe and a nice feel, a very life feel. You feel like you're there, you feel like you're living in it. The effectiveness of her writing style. Zevin uses, I wouldn't say dual POV. There are 3 characters that are followed, and actually various ones. There are a few chapters with minor characters, like Sam's mom, for example, has a whole chapter to explore a very traumatic event, and Sam does too. It has bunches of flashbacks, bunch of different perspectives, a bunch of jumps in time, but it essentially explores these few characters' careers in producing video games, and it is brilliant. Because it's a life novel, it's a coming of age novel, it explores not just this career path, but all of the life challenges that they have to tackle. It's realistic, it feels real, it feels like real people's lives. And it's inspiring too, because they make a success. They win at life. And the one strong suit of this book, the one whole strong suit of this book, is how attached to the characters she makes you feel. That's the biggest thing, that's the biggest takeaway for me. When you put this book down, you will feel like you have followed the lives of real people, and now that's been taken away from you. You will get attached to them, you'll fall in love with these characters. That's why I'm giving Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow a 4.6 out of 5. Finally, another classic. The big one, 1984. Now, is it as good as Animal Farm? Or is it the same? Or is it worse? 1984 follows a much more real and gritty storyline. It follows real people this time, not animals. You connect more, and when you read this book, you will have to take breaks. You will not be able to read this in one go. You will not be able to read this in big chunks. You'll have to take a break every chapter or two, because it is depressing. It's claustrophobic. You feel trapped. You feel like you can't speak. You feel like you can't write, because that's what the characters cannot do. It follows the story of Winston and how he deals with a very, very oppressive society. This book was so influential that the whole meme of literally 1984 came around, and the term Orwellian also came around to describe oppressive systems. 1984, and the reason it's so brilliant and so scary is because it's real. There are societies out there like this now, for example North Korea, and there are societies that are going that way. I'm not going to name them, because it's a reach to say that societies could end up this way, but they can, and there are policies being put in place in various first world countries that imply the existence of this system will come around. That is why they have been banned in countries like this. This novel has been banned in the US. If that doesn't show the utter importance of reading this book, I do not know what does. I think most books follow a character-driven story, and some books follow a plot and world-building driven story. And that is what 1984 does. 1984's function is to show you how it would feel to live in a society that doesn't let you think. And the only thoughts you are allowed are the ones that worship the system, that worship the government. I would say this book is a 4.6 out of 10 solely because of its purpose, and solely because of how it has affected people who have read it. It's true education to read this book. It's true importance. People need to understand how dystopian novels can really affect individuals and how that would feel. I think Animal Farm explores how a corrupt government can arise, and 1984 explores how an individual is affected in society and how cruel the society can make them feel to the point where there is no escape. I would give 1984 a 4.6 out of 10, solely due to its influence, and the way it is built really makes you think that we do not need to have a society like that.